DragonCon, welcome to the Dresden Files Peace Talks trailer cast and crew panel. We have featured a smattering of some of the amazing folks that worked on this project that premiered back in March. We have included, of the actors, we have Bernardo, who played Harry. We have Sarah Flannery, who played Murphy. Liz Fenning, Mab. Birgit Lüdemann, who played Lara. Kris Showerman, who played Marcone. Then among the crew, we have Stephen Gibler, one of our fabulous producers. We have Tonya Nelson, costumer. We have Suzanne Solomon, who is essentially my second brain, script supervisor, and so much more. She's going to be moderating for us today. We have Wade Morrison and Kris Stone, who are our production design team. We have Shelby Smith, who was our hair, just makeup designer. And then Kitty Krell, who did Map's costume. And joining us, spliced in with part two, folks that weren't able to join us yesterday when we were able to record everyone else, we have the man himself, Jim Butcher, accompanied by Fenris Foster and possible cameos from Brutus. We have Jeremy Royce, our DP extraordinaire, DP cinematographer. Then we have Stephanie Piotrowski, our editor, also a huge fan of the series. And so we can't wait to hear your perspectives as well. We're going to start by showing you the Peace Talks trailer if you haven't seen it yet. And let's jump right in.
Blood has been spilled. The assassin, a creature well known to be your frequent ally.
What will happen to him?
Justice.
Thomas, you idiot. What have you done?
This whole conference is Marcone's baby.
He's building alliances.
And if you screw up his plans...
I mean to continue as I've begun. I will pursue my rights under Mab's accords, and she will not protect you.
Shot.
Tomorrow night, I'm taking my brother back. I'm killing anyone who gets in the way. And you, Sir Knight, are going to help me.
Don't think I can't see what's happening.
I don't know what to tell you, Los. I was doing liaison stuff for Mab.
Rumors call it something else.
Your choices have made you an outlier. Boy, tell me, you ain't dumb enough to try this.
Oh, I'm more than dumb enough.
Is he strong? Listen, but he's got radioactive blood.
So the very first question is regarding this trailer for everyone. Since Peace Talks was originally going to be one gigantic 7 million page book, Jason Olosday asked, was the project started before it was announced that Peace Talks would be split into two books? And if so, how many scenes had you previously planned, Priscilla, to include but cut because they ended up being in the second book?
Priscilla, remind me, were you the first one to notice that the book needed to be two books, or was that just something we sort of found out about?
That was me. I don't think that I thought you, but definitely, like, as I was working on the trailer script, I was realizing, like, this, like, I don't know how to service both A plots in sequence,
right,
without it feeling totally like out of left field. And I mean, out of left field was how it was deliberately set up to feel, but yeah, like it didn't feel right for a trailer. And so when Anne said to you that, like, it probably should be split, I was like, oh my God, thank you.
That's what it was. Yeah, we should have realized it before, and when Anne finally said it, we were like, oh, we should have realized this. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah. But yeah, like there were times when I debated telling you, like, I wonder if this is really 2 books. I wonder if this needs to be split. And I didn't mention it to you. And so I was so relieved when I ended. So.
Well, we'll stop doing that.
As a result, he was able to add in so many more character moments, and like I'm so glad that the split ended up happening. And those that are sort of jonesing for the other half of what was originally that one book don't have much longer to wait. So
are you going to do a trailer for Battleground then?
So a lot of folks have asked about that, and like unfortunately because of COVID, like we would have had to film like everything together if we wanted to do that. But I have given all you guys scripts, and we were going to do the next best thing. So like in the style of like all of those TV shows that have done sort of Zoom episodes. Let's go for it.
Like right now?
Right now.
Okay, let's do it.
Look how far you've fallen.
Nice.
Yes.
What's going on, Harry?
An apocalypse. Sort of. Little A.
I have watched holy place after holy place fall to the mortals. They dare to go where they were never meant to go.
I chose you for times precisely such as these. When an elemental of destruction is what is most needed.
Monsters are coming! They're gonna kill everyone in this town if they can, unless we kill them first! Come on!
That creature cannot protect you, cannot enforce her justice. Each of the divine here must choose. Abandon this mortal world, or burn with it.
Can you fight?
Watch me.
Nice.
Bravo.
So we have one more person that we'd like to join us. June? Yes. So here's June Dietrich, who's our ethnio. Looking absolutely incredible in bronze.
Thanks to Shelby.
I have a quick question before Suze. Like, how hard was it for you guys to keep all of it a secret that that there were actually going to be 2 trailers?
Not hard at all. Not hard at all. Actually, that's the best part about being a Redditor is sometimes you get to, you know, just know things and then, you know, kind of drop little things about I might know more than you, but because you're an anonymous Redditor, it never gets taken seriously. So you're just like, okay, I'm good with that.
What I loved was like one fan, like a few weeks before the break was announced, they like had this, because of the page count that was announced on Amazon, they're like this is way lower than the word count that Jim was talking about on his blog. Like I wonder if he split Peace Talks and Mirror. And so like they were like absolutely like exactly right. And then the comments were just full of people saying like that was nonsense. And Jim and I were just like reading these comments. Yeah.
I mean, I had a hard time because it's like you do this thing and you go on this journey and you are, you know, with everybody and you kind of want to just like, you know, just tell people all this like exciting stuff, but then you're like, can't. So for me, I had a hard time because I had to like just pretend that it didn't exist. And it's hard to like, you know, live in a space where like something that's happened doesn't exist. So I mean, I had a hard time.
Especially because your most awesome shot was in the second trailer and you wanted to brag. I'm like, I need to hold up as a guy.
I know. I'm like, I got, and then I can't talk about it. Thanks.
That was hard for all of us to not talk about.
Yes,
we were
it
like,
was.
Wait till you see the berserker. Right,
Yeah, I really liked going on, so it was hard for me.
Yes, so in addition to costuming Mab, Kitty also costumed Ethnio.
Yes.
So that other amazing credit is now delivered to her honor.
Absolutely exquisite. Truly, Kitty, it was absolutely exquisite.
Thank you. Thank you. It was a lot of fun and a lot of interesting techniques I haven't really used before. So I got to play with some fun stuff for it.
First question we have is one that we got from like 4 people on the Facebook groups and on Reddit, and this is for all of the actors, from Adam Matheson-Sward, who does a lot of the drawings, as well as Cheryl Keel and several Redditors. And that is, what is the process for getting into character when the character in question has such a long and detailed history with so many fan expectations? And did you have help getting into character? And if so, from whom and how? How and from whom?
Good question. I mean, it was just really, so much of it was about the relationships being built between, you know, Priscilla and Suzanne and everyone that had the vision. And, you know, it is challenging because you don't know everything that you want to know. And you research and you read the books, but it's hard to digest all of that in the period of time we had to prepare. So it was just super, super fun. There was so much talent on this, and whether it be talking to the other actors and finding out what we needed to do to be where we needed to be, but you know, most of it was the vision of the production team and of the director and of all the people that are so passionate about this story, being able to go, okay, let's have a talk and help me get where I need to go to understand what we need to bring to life to and what is your vision? Let me see your vision, and then let's do it. So yeah, it was very fun and so much passion from everyone. It actually really made it easy, considering how much backstory there was to know. I felt like we were really prepared because of the passion of the team.
Would you mind talking, and Sarah, both of you, you had a process where you would end up like moving into the scene before you had to start it. Would you mind discussing that at all?
Sure. So I remember, when I didn't, you know, in introducing myself to Karen, I was like, who is this person and how am I like this person? And I remember going and finding these like amazing pictures and being like, God, this bitch is badass. And then I remember going into the, I remember it very clearly when I was auditioning, and I was like waiting, like there were like, you know, they're testing like lots of Karens and also lots of Harrys. And I was sitting up in the room with Jason, and we just started talking just about our lives. And I was just like, this guy is just, I like get this guy. And we started talking about everything, and we hadn't done our scene together yet. I don't even think Priscilla knows about this, but we just talked about where we were from and like how we feel about things and all this stuff. And he's like, yeah, I just, you know, I just made my own salmon jerky. Jerky. I have it here. And he like whipped out an avocado.
I'm known for bringing avocados on set.
I know, but he's like, yeah, just like everything was just very just like straight grit and like, man. And I was like, this guy's hilarious. And I'm like, who makes their own jerky? Anyway, so we kind of had this like back and forth, and then we went and did our scene together, and we really felt like I felt like I already kind of knew him in a way. And so we had that kind of like, he's like, salmon jerky, and I'm like, so we kind of had this thing already kind of going, and then the banter, and then before like our scenes that we would do, we would, you know, talk and just talk about each other's lives, and I would look at him and be like, kind of
and that's
have
it.
this, but then also like very much full of love and just admiration for who Jason is, and just like love being around him, and just like we can just hang out all day. And so we would just kind of plop ourselves on the couch and wait for our scene to start, but we were already like in it from the beginning.
Yeah, I remember too finding some gold with Liz when we started sort of improvising into a couple of the scenes too, which was really fun. Just like understanding what was happening right before this moment, and then kind of bantering and improvising and getting some stuff out to get us into that energy was really fun to do that too.
June and Birgit and Kris, you all had the experience of having to start like immediately with a scene in like full rage. How did you do stuff like that? Birgit, in your case, full
sexual life. Yeah, so in this case, a lot of preparation on my side. I really had to get to know that character, but also be on it before the camera starts, and also like live the character and be comfortable in living that character. And then when the camera's rolling, you're already in it. So a lot of preparation, emotional preparation and like physical preparation, and then also being comfortable with Harry before was also very important.
All right, you're making
and he
out.
made it very easy. No, but like that scene, I feel like you're an actor at the end of the day, and your body's an instrument, so you just have to kind of do it in that particular scene. I don't know how you feel, Jason, but
No, I agree 100%. Like, you have to find this balance of building rapport, and then most importantly, building safety. It's just about feeling safe and secure to be able to go there and know that you're with someone that respects you and respects the work that you're doing. And it's a fine little art to doing that, but it's really, really important to make sure that that everyone feels comfortable. So however you need to do that, you have to find a way to make that happen. And I think we did.
Kris, I'm sorry, you were starting before, and then I.
Oh no, quite all right. No, I was just gonna. It's rare that at least I have gotten to be a part of a project that so much backstory has been written on, so much research can be done on these characters, and the way that Jim writes is so intricate and so elegantly placed. You feel like you know these people already, and that's a double-edged sword, because for an actor it's fantastic, because I feel like I know Marcone. I feel like I know exactly who this guy is, but my interpretation might be completely different from a million different audience interpretations. So you have to surrender a little bit to know, okay, I'm going to disappoint somebody, and that's got to be okay. As long as I don't disappoint Priscilla, I think I'm going to be okay. So that's as long as she was happy, I was happy.
A lot of Marcone fans, and like your version is now their version as well.
Oh, thank you.
Like, you are Marcone.
And on the exact opposite side of that, June, you had no background. You're brand new. So what was it like to be on the exact opposite side of that?
I mean, thankfully, there's a lot of folklore out there.
Yes, on the other side of that, you're like the most ancient of all the characters, but in the Dresden Files series, you're brand new.
Yes. But I was able to totally nerd out in going into the Celtic history of my character. So that was a delight. And then doing actor homework, you want to talk about high stakes, being locked in the bottom of the ocean. That kind of gives you some motivation. So that homework was so much fun. Gave me plenty of fodder for sheer rage and angry laughter.
The first one we have is for Stephanie and Jeremy. Usually a movie trailer is made after the film is complete, compiled of pieces of the completed film. How was it different to film only a trailer where you were doing pieces of scenes that had no sense of continuity, both from the perspective of acting, well, that was just for the actors, from the perspective of the crew who was setting up locations, and then moving on so quickly, and from the perspective of the DP who had to do the whole concept?
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of unlike any other experience I've had, aside from, I've done a couple book trailers in the past, so it wasn't the first time, but really what I found right away is that I read the script the first time before, we were probably a month and a half out, and just trying to make sense of what's going on, having not read all of the books. I literally just had to schedule, I think we spent like 6 hours over lunch just talking through who these characters are, what the beats are in the story, because you're making all of these subtle choices with lighting and camera work that are hopefully reinforcing what's going on in the story. But when you have no idea what's going on in the story, because it's just taken bits and pieces, it was impossible. So thank goodness for our fearless director, Priscilla, being able to not just give me the update on what we're filming, but all of the backstory and why these relationships between these characters that we may only see for like a 2-second clip in the book trailer, but have this huge history together. Why they're doing the things they're doing, and how consequently I should light the scene and film them. So yeah, and just in terms of the total amount, the sheer volume of footage we had to shoot, it's just so unlike everything else, where we might shoot a normal scene in a film maybe over 4 or 5 hours. So you might shoot 2 scenes a day. And here we're shooting, I don't know, sometimes 8 to 10 scenes in a day. It was a lot, but so satisfying because you're only shooting the best stuff.
And Stephanie, from a post-production perspective, what was it like to, like, usually you would take a scene and then pick the like biggest bang from the scene and use that in the trailer. What was it like to only have the big bangs?
I think the big bangs were amazing. So first of all, it was easy to do, but I also think we had to like be okay with like rearranging. And Priscilla and I did a lot of that, like kind of like reworking things, rearranging. I mean, a bite that we had originally thought worked in the beginning, that we were like, yes, this is where it goes, suddenly didn't really make sense there. And since you don't have more to go, I mean, we had more like shots and takes and stuff, but you don't have more scenes to pull from. So you kind of have to rethink how you're organizing the trailer and how you're editing it. So we ended up like taking moments that we like really liked in the beginning and saying, I think that's our ender. So we like ended up pushing it to the end and that kind of thing. So I think it's just like being flexible, being able to like work with what you have and move it around and like where it makes the most sense in the trailer.
Learning how to kill my darlings, that was an important lesson. But also just like I had so much trust working with you because like you are a trailer editor as your profession. And so like I knew that like your expertise was absolutely invaluable. So.
Well, you did an amazing job too, because there were moments where we'd have a scene that we didn't necessarily like use our one moment, but you were like, let's sneak that in like in the middle of this montage of like action and excitement. And it totally works. I was like, oh, go Priscilla.
What was it like to just film the trailer as if it were in the context of a greater scene?
Yeah, it sounds good. So, I mean, I've produced a lot. Like I've done commercials for Lancome, done a bunch of features. The first feeling you had was terror. It was like, like, because like, I want to tell you this.
The second, third, fourth feeling. Continue.
Yeah, right. And that's second, because like, I will tell you this. Michael Bay has a female spirit animal, and it's Priscilla. And so, like, I looked at the first, like,
I respect women more than Michael Bay does. Continue.
Yes.
But, like, there's a lot
Michael Bay needs a female spirit animal.
View of what this world could be. Like, she wanted this to be big. And to me, I had such respect for her because of that. And so, once the fear part went away, I realized that she's an expert in this world. What we're going to do is we're going to look at this budget and say, what can we do? Let's rewrite this. Let's think critically. What makes sense for what people are going to get excited about, what we can do. And obviously, we're going to work to our actors and work to essentially what makes sense for what Jim wants and for what the viewers want. And so that actually you have a lot of power over this process. And the biggest thing is that Priscilla is a director that you want as a producer because you want to make something worthwhile, that people are passionate about, that jumps out, that means something. And so my job is to say, all right, I'm behind Priscilla. I want to make sure that that spirit of doing something exceptional stays. But how do we make sure that we can do this in the confines of always very limited resources that you have? And, you know, as you can see from this trailer, you know, we did a lot of rewriting. There's a lot of back and forth because, again, you just as a producer have to, you don't want to tell someone the bad news. You want the director to get what, you know, she wants, but at the same time you want, you know, it's like you don't want to eat something too much and then you're sick after and like, you know, it's a mess. You want to be just the right meal. And like looking at this, you know, we definitely did. And, you know, at the end of the day, though, it really comes down to, you know, you're going to have all the spectacle in the world, but your cast are the ones that star and make it all come together. And if there's one skill that Priscilla really showed here, it was the cast. Because as you can see here, just exceptional people. They're talented, they're charismatic, and they fit for a world that's been around for a long time. That's no easy task. And Priscilla, you really pulled it off. So
there were a lot of kind of compromises along the way, a lot of interesting innovations to sort of figure out how to be more economical with what we had. Yeah, like I could not have imagined a better producer to give me the honest feedback that I needed and sort of to really sort of shepherd the production and like make sure that I was well taken care of in terms of like all the logistical things that needed to get done than you, Stephen. So you and Evan and Miles just did a spectacular job.
And I want to compliment Priscilla one more thing. Every great director produces. And Priscilla produced a lot in this and produced in multiple ways because the reality is that, you know, this is a fan-made project in a lot of ways. And it has to come from someone who's deserving of making a fan-made project. And Priscilla's passion and respect that we had for understanding this world allowed a number of people to come into this project in a real way make something worthwhile. Those are two very important things. And so Priscilla put a lot of people together. She got a lot of people into the system. She gathered a lot of resources, far more than any other director probably would, but deservedly so, because in many ways, she knew what she wanted to do. If you had the passion and the understanding of this world to be that person. So I want to sort of put that out there.
Specifically for Liz, how awesome was it to get to portray Mab? And
Jesus.
This is from Matt Davis, who
okay. Matt, you're correct. It was awesome.
And would you do it again? And what was your favorite thing about her?
Oh my God. Okay, so it's so funny because I think it piggybacks immediately off what everybody was saying, which is I'm obsessed with Mab. So it was it was both, you know, everybody was saying they balanced the weight of other fan expectations and their own desperate need to feel like they're honoring this incredible character. But I had Shelby painting me and Kate giving me much more hair and Kitty's gorgeous dress. And, you know, so there are all of these elements in like this beautiful world that you, Susan and Priscilla, like you just, there were so many elements to play with to where it was like being tossed on top of a wave and you just kind of had to ride it in and hope that your passion and some level of your training would show enough that you would honor something that you love so much. So, oh my God, like a specific moment. So we filmed in a castle and there was a moment where I was at the table and I was looking at all of these characters that I love being portrayed by badass people that are very good at it. And, you know, a couple dragons who I knew were super fans. And it was just such a, like, you know, you try to take the picture with your eyes and just hold it. And I was like, wow, this is such a beautiful second. And you can't freeze it, but you can carry it with you.
Right.
I don't know if you guys know, but Priscilla is one of those directors that like she's the super fan. So, you know, if anyone's going to do a book trailer, like good luck finding a Priscilla because she is a unicorn.
I am available.
She's doing visual effects on this. She is, you know, to say tireless is an understatement. And she made us all feel so supported and so celebrated. And, you know, we're like, well, I'm saying 5 lines. You're putting, you know, you're juggling all of the plates and putting on the circus.
I want to commend Priscilla also on having the best director feedback when you nail a take.
Yes.
Yes.
Like,
Amen.
Yes. And then all of a sudden you'd hear her behind the camera just like it was I could never, like, I'm an actor, but I'm not that good of an actor. Like the way I was like, okay, I guess we're moving on. We nailed that. I can tell by the voices behind me over here.
There were squeaks. There were noises. There were faces.
Yeah. Usually,
I
like the
remember the one
tapping of
take
your
of the-
shoes as you were jumping a little bit. Like, I'd hear the shoes tapping on the ground from the bouncing. Like,
It was the closest thing to live theater.
I remember a couple moments where I look at Priscilla and Susan, and they were like holding each other. They were so happy. They were just like they were just. It was really special. This whole project was really special, and everyone involved. It was just a huge fantasy come true. Yeah.
It was usually your scenes that we were like,
yes, the Harry and Murphy moments.
Sorry. They, like animals. Oh.
Here, you can watch a Fenris and Brutus interaction here.
Oh.
Don't bite his tail, Fen. Don't claw his tail. He doesn't like that.
Don't tell me what to do. I'm a cat. But I'll do it anyway, because you're right.
This next actor question is for Birgit, Jason, and Sarah, and it's from Mandy and several other Redditors as well who like combined a question together. Were any of you fans of the series before the books? And if not, or I mean, fans of the series before the trailer, and if not, what did you do to prepare for your role?
Yeah, sure. Hi, Mandy. Thank you for the question. So I was not a fan in the beginning. I had no idea of the book. Once I received the audition, I Googled it, and then I was like, what? How do I not know about this book or this book series? And before the audition, I tried to finish reading all the books, but it was like 4 books. So I did the best that I can, and then I went into the audition and did it. And then as soon as Priscilla said that I got the part, I revisited all those books. I think it was 4 or 5 that I was reading, and then I just and I just became an instant fan. And I was just like, I know this character. She's like my alter ego. And I am so glad that this is me, that I actually have this opportunity to portray like the best character, in my opinion. I'm not biased at all. But yeah, so I definitely did a lot of reading and backstory and figuring out how to physically portray her and emotionally, and so obviously you can see the product of my work.
Yes. Jason, same thing, because you kind of came in as Harry, and we were like, well, you got this, and you're like, I don't know this character at all. So like, what? So what was it that you did too?
well, in prep for the audition, I went deep down the Wikipedia rabbit hole. I was like a long time on Wikipedia reading kind of Harry from beginning to end, and that was actually, as I went, I was like, this is amazing. Like, I was in love immediately. And then once Priscilla cast the role, we sat down for lunch one day and just had this like download session. My pen was just going crazy, and Priscilla was just talking, and I took a ton of notes. And then it was audiobooks and books. I think, like, I remember Tonya helped me with that, and I got Stormfront, and I would read some old stuff, some more recent stuff, and I actually happened to be going to Chicago right around the time of, right before we filmed this. So I was like actually walking around outside I can't think of the name of the building, the all black building that's in Chicago, that's in the Stormfront. Yeah, so it was really cool. I even that was cool to like be in Chicago while I was reading it and thinking about this. And I mean, look, I love Harry. I mean, I have a deep admiration for his irreverence, and I think that's probably a big reason that Priscilla has probably cast me. I think she got that him and I have some things in common, the way we look at things. So it was really fun. I fell in love with it right away, and now I'm a huge fan, and it's been really cool to see people that I know that are huge fans react, that I didn't realize that they were fans. And then they're like, people I do jujitsu with are like, freaking out. They're like, "You're Harry!" It's just like they're like, they're like, you know, really excited to like kick my butt and say they choked Harry or something like that. But,
Murphy does that all the time.
yeah. So it was so much fun. There was so much to digest, but that was part of the fun of it. It was just such a big world with so much detail and so much specificity that it was one of those things where it was like I knew there's no way I'm ever going to know everything that I want to know, but at the same time with this team, I'm going to know everything I need to know. So that was fun to dive into.
And Sarah, you accidentally became Murphy in the Murphiest way I could imagine. You tell us about how you did that.
You know, I hadn't heard of the book series. So I have 2 kids and I don't read a lot because it's really tiring. And so I generally like things being told to me because it's a lot to read in a row. I did read Stormfront and I fell in love. Like, you know, you have a good book when you're reading and it's not, you don't have to keep going back and it's like everything makes sense and lines up. And I read Stormfront and I was like, I gotta read more, but I can't read anymore. So I wound up actually just getting all the audibles and just going through every single book. And after reading Stormfront, to be honest, I didn't really like Murphy. I thought she was like a self-righteous, tattletale, by the rules, stubborn bitch, kind of. And I was like, lighten up, Murphy, lighten up. This guy knows, he knows, stop being so stubborn. And then and I'm a very I'm an Aries. So I'm very kind of like, I am like, what is right, and I will fight for what's right every single moment of every single day because I want justice. And I was like, this is like, so I was like, as I started getting to know her and going through the books, and I eventually went through every single book. By the time we shot the trailer, I had gone through all of the books because I became such a big fan of the books and the writing and how this world, I just wanted to live in this world. Not always, because it's some scary shit, but I really fell in love with it. And I really started to really understand Karen and be like, you know, she just wants what's right all the time. Like, even if it's hard, you know, because life is hard. And even if it's hard, it's the hard way. She wants to make sure that she's doing the right thing. And as I started kind of going through all of this and listening to James Marsters, who I think I fell in love with a little bit through this process.
It's understandable.
So I definitely, it became just a world that I wanted to have on me all the time. And to the point where I was like, where's the next book, Jim? Oh yeah, I'm making this trailer for it. Can you make it now so I can hear it? Because again, I like it when people tell me things and because I'm like, I just would listen. I was a zombie. I just would walk around like this. I'm listening. Stop. Don't ask me. Get your own milk. So it was like an incredible experience. Like, I miss it. Like, I really miss the Dresden world, and I need it. I was like, I asked Priscilla before this started, and I said, can I get the new book yet?
Yes.
So I've loved Murphy. I feel very connected to her. I'm also a martial artist, like Jason. I'm a second-degree black belt, and I've been a fighter my whole life. So this has been like a very close to home thing for me. So in all the preparation and backstory, and just downloading it into my body, it also was already really much a part of me, to the point where I'm like, just call me Karen. I'm a Flannery. It's not that much. I come from a long line of cops, Irish cops,
artists, and
so hey.
You love gardening. You're intimately involved with a man that's ridiculously tall and brunette. Like, yeah, you're Murphy.
Yeah, literally, my husband is 6'4" and is kind of like a Harry Dresden, except for I build everything, and I literally put all the shells on the wall, and he's just like watches me. I do all the home projects. everything
When
that's
you came
installed.
in and you said I'd listened to all the books while I was tending to my rose garden, and we were like, oh my God, you're Murphy.
Yeah, I'm a huge gardener. I like grow vegetables and like pickle my own pickles.
But you like your salmon jerky.
Yeah, I like it's a gardening is definitely like a peaceful way to kind of like also just, I'm an edgy person, so it's a way for me to relax and just kind of get in touch with nature. So I need it.
Jim, for people who did not see, would you care to let them know where they might catch your cameo?
Oh yeah, I'm a corpse in the background there. In the scene where Marcone is grabbing Dresden by the shirt and shaking him and doing the Gibler speech at him. I'm one of the corpses in the background. I'm draped over an automobile.
Nice.
This one is for Tonya and Kitty. Can you talk to us about the process of costuming? Which costumes did you love the most, and which were the largest challenges for you?
Well, I only did 2 of the costumes. I planned to have a third, but it didn't wind up working out. Mab was fun, and it's actually something very similar to other dresses that I've made before. So that one was relatively straightforward. Like there was a lot of work involved in it, but I knew how I wanted it to look. I knew how I was going to make it happen, and I did. FNU was a lot more of a creative build process that sort of evolved as I went. Like I had an initial idea that I sketched for Priscilla on terrible like scratch notebook paper and pen, and I was like, this is what it's sort of gonna be. This is where I'm starting. And then I sent her some inspiration photos of like, this is the kind of vibe I'm going. But it's so many weird techniques. I actually used the body of a mannequin for the breastplate, and then there's like leather on it. I made hot glue barnacles to go all over it. The entire thing is painted in like at least 4 layers of different color paint to get the patina correct. It has so many weird things, and then there's not a single thing on there that wasn't weathered. Also, cinnamon works great for rust.
It's biodegradable.
Wow.
I am a fan of the book series. Thanks to my husband. I'm like you, Sarah. I do not read, I listen. But I heard that it uses the same part of the brain. But one of the things that hit me early on after talking to Priscilla is that I felt like I'm more of a vacationer in the Dresden world, and she lives there. And it's just kind of like the difference of, knowing everything, and like you have a general idea, but she really knew the details. And I heard a quote once from the costumer who did Memoirs of a Geisha, that she had to become a student of the Japanese culture to really understand, like everything that she knew about costuming, she kind of had to put on the back burner to let them teach her. And I kind of took that concept with Priscilla, that it's like, I have ideas, but to do it the world justice, I need to listen to her. And so I really, there were things that sometimes, I had to kind of like put my ego to the side, but it was good because I knew she knew the culture that like at the back of her hand. And for me, I had a base understanding, but this isn't just for my personal projects. I mean, this is for the fandom who are going to go, no, wait, Harry doesn't have that. He has this. And, and there were times that we had to kind of agree to disagree. And there were times that we had to collaborate together. But it was I really learned a lot through Priscilla. And I couldn't have done it without her. And I couldn't, unfortunately, my wardrobe assistant isn't here, Thomas, but saved my butt because he just was so willing to deal with the horde of people where he could let me focus on the characters that I needed to.
Yeah.
And like, there were so many instances where you were so right, and I just didn't realize, like, because you know your craft. And like when you were making the warden cloaks, like the materials that you're sort of demoing for me, like for whatever reason, like I didn't have the vision to see like what it would look like finalized, and you just had to sort of like, okay, like trust me on this, like let's try this. And then you created these just gorgeous warden cloaks that looked so beautiful in person and moved with just such elegance. And so like, yeah, like you were so incredible to work with, and I learned so much. And just like the breadth of costumes that you created and were able to attire was just magnificent. So like we threw so many responsibilities at you, and you handled everything with just such grace. And so I'm so glad to have gotten to work with you. You and Thomas were just both magnificent.
Oh, thank you. I'll be sure to tell him.
And Kitty, you have Ethne's breastplate?
Yeah.
Wow.
Gorgeous.
Oh,
it really is, honey. It's exquisite. Just an exquisite piece.
And with that side lighting that Jeremy put on it, just like the way that it catches all of those scales is just, oh my gosh.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, there's like, these are all, I sculpted these and then cast them in hot glue, which is a surprisingly good casting medium. And then there's like leather pieces and so much paint.
Is there anything you might do differently next time, having learned something from this experience?
That's so interesting. I've never done a book trailer before. I actually am used to working, so I work for AMC Networks and Sundance TV, and what we do is we get the episodes when they're already like complete, and then we pull from those episodes and we just like use the best moments to create our trailers. But I've never had an opportunity to do like, oh, I get to choose the takes. I get to pick where Marcone looks the scariest or the best in the scene. So I really appreciated the way that we were able to do that.
What have you learned as a director, Priscilla, and also for Jeremy? What have you learned technically as far as use of filters, shots, editing from the unique experience of filming just a trailer for a book?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I'd always wanted to do at some point, never had a good excuse for, was the Blade Runner eye effect that we did with, it was basically a split mirror. And it was so fun. Actually, I mean, you really have to nail it and get it perfect, and it takes some time to do, but it was a fun opportunity to do something technically that most films just have no reason to do that. So that was cool. I think the biggest different thing for me on this production was really preparation, because we had so much we had to do. Normally I would show up, we would block a scene, then we would light the scene and shoot the scene. But because we had to shoot so many scenes, often we had to be lighting before we even knew what the blocking was. So in terms of the pre-production, I created this whole Bible, this binder that I still have somewhere, where I literally was handing it to my gaffer, Sev, who did an amazing job. So he could sort of go from our playbook and get a lot of the work done before we get to set, because there would have been no other way to do it. So that was new and fun.
Well, that's one of the things that like knew that when I was interviewing you for the job, that I like knew that we were going to work well together, is because I was talking about all the like the magical effects and whatnot. You were talking about how like important it was to make sure that there were like practical lighting, so the visual effects wouldn't feel like they were just coming out of nothing. And you and your team just did such a beautiful job, like timing that exactly so that it'd be the light from the magic would be illuminating their faces, and it just works so much more seamlessly. So.
Well, it helps when you're filming with the director who's also doing some VFX, because they really know what they're going to have to do down the road, and that level of awareness of what you need to make it work totally improves the overall quality. Whereas some directors might be leaning more heavily on a VFX artist, and they can take a guess at it, but they don't really know what they need. So I think it was in part due to your variety of skill sets.
We have a question for the MUA. Shelby, this production had fairies covered in frost, wizards with burned hands, vampires beaten bloody, giant bronze women, and piles of bloody bodies. Which look was the most fun to design and to implement, and which were you most pleased with in the final product on screen?
I would say the most, well, when you say all of them in a row like that, I was like, wow, I didn't even think about it like that. I would say the most stressful at first was Ethnu. Just because that's like, it was an overwhelming project. I told Priscilla, I was like, I need help that day. It's definitely going to be like 4 hours. Like, it was a long one. I think it was at 4 hours in the end, but thank God June is like chill. She took it and she just like laid out in her little set chair and we just painted her. But that was stressful trying to figure out what I wanted to do for like, to really make her look aged, because just having her like flat bronze, I didn't think was going to do it. I think she needed more dimensions. So I went to Michael's, and because I remember making like in school, like the fake moss and stuff you'd use for like projects. So I was like, oh, that would work. So I actually like prose glued it to her, and then we painted that and we aged that and like just different textures, and then ended up using some Mel packs in like a green shade so she looked corroded, because if she was on the ocean she'd be corroded, she wouldn't be just bronze. So that was definitely the most stressful, but I was very pleased with that. I would say another two that I was really pleased with was Mab and Molly. Their like frosted lashes and the frost in their eyebrows and hair. That one was really fun because I have used that ice effects before, but I didn't think about it. And then I was watching actually the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, and then there's a part where she goes into like outer space and she becomes like frosted. And so I was like, oh, so I like looked into that makeup and I was like, oh, they used this and they like put on her eyelashes, and I was like, well, I'm gonna do that for them. So that's what, thank God that worked really well for them.
Awesome. We were wondering about that last night. We're like, how did she do the eyelashes?
Yeah. Yeah, like individually painted them and then like tacked it on. I'm sure Liz remembers me doing that.
It was awesome. It's you know you're in the hands of a total boss when she's like, all right, I'm gonna frost you now. And I went, what?
That was fun.
Incredible amount of like research and development and whatnot for like different like colors of blood for Thomas to have.
Oh,
and we actually like experimented with using some of that like because his blood is supposed to look inhuman and like paler than human, but it's hard to do a pale red without it looking like bubblegum pink.
Yeah, like a Pepto-Bismol moment. Yeah.
Like these great examples, and we actually tried integrating in some of that like that beverage glitter stuff that you sometimes see in cocktails, and it looked great like in the little demo, but like as soon as it was applied to skin, it like beaded in this weird way, and so we had to go with a more kind of traditional blood for Thomas. But it was just so much fun to like do that R&D.
Yeah, I would say definitely the most stressful was I was so nervous achieving these looks that like fans were like, that's not how I pictured her. And then it would be like, oh my God, that would be horrible. So that was like probably the struggle.
Okay, everyone who was afraid of that, raise your hand. Like, next question is from Cheryl Keel on the site, and she says, you know we're going to want to know more about that Harry and Marcone scene. Okay, so Jason, Kris, you want to tell us more about that? Tell us more about your relationship.
Well, I know there's a lot of speculation about how deep our relationship goes. And I promised Jason that I wouldn't out either of us, so.
Yeah, loose lipstick shit, buddy.
That's right.
Let's unwrap just like we did that second trailer.
So some people in the forums were like, ask Priscilla that question. I'm like, no, I'll ask Jason and Kris, see what they have to say.
There you go.
Read along.
Well, I think
read along.
it's kind of genius too, Priscilla. How did you decide to choose? Because you're clearly, by choosing that moment, because you have to make some pretty hard choices because a trailer is so short and a book so big, you chose that moment that seems to stir up some controversy. Was that your idea, or was it just part of storytelling?
And I was actually sitting exactly where I am now at Susie's house when I made the decision to put in the trailer. I said to Susie and Amy, who were both there, like, should I be evil? And they're like, yes.
Always
Yes.
evil.
But,
It was Thanksgiving last year, I think.
Yeah, Thanksgiving.
Mm.
So like just like a week before we filmed was when we decided to put that in. And part of like one of the motivating decisions was because Kris just like so completely, absolutely nailed his audition. I was like we don't have enough Morrison in this trailer. Like we need more of Kris.
Thank you.
Jody's question. Jody from the forum asked Priscilla, said, were some of the scenes you chose deliberately meant to throw people off? Which, and I think we know.
That actually, the Harry and Morrison scene is not really throwing off. Like,
okay.
No.
Yeah, that's true.
The biggest me messing with the fans was the Harry and Lara making out scene. For those that have read Peace Talks, which I hope that you have at this point, because otherwise this thing is entirely spoilers. But the folks that have read Peace Talks know that was like this sort of like holographic distraction thing that was not actually happening to the characters themselves. But yeah, like so that was purely me messing with the fans and like sort of helping to sort of create that sense of peril. Like, oh my God, like what is Harry doing? And so yeah, I wanted folks to ask themselves that question, like what is Harry, like what depths is Harry going to have to go to? Like how far is he going to be pulled and pushed in this situation? And just genuinely sort of bring that peril and making out with a gorgeous woman that could eat his face is part of that. So.
Ariel from Reddit has a question for Priscilla and Jim. It says, in your process of writing, were there any scenes that didn't make it into the trailer despite being filmed? And if there were more than one, what was your favorite?
There was more than one. I'm going to work with somebody else. Oh my goodness. Those things are expensive.
We see a brief shot of Harry and Murphy on a motorcycle. Like that's a whole scene, and my shipper heart is crumbling into a million pieces that we weren't able to put it in. But like it's this sort of like very sort of heartfelt moment between the two of them. But and it was intended to be sort of like as an after credits thing, but it just like took like it was just sunk all the energy like a stone. And so like Stephanie had to be the one to break it to me, like it's really not working. And so like, oh, you're right, it isn't. But my baby. Yeah.
But it was so beautiful.
I mean, both Jason and Sarah did just the most gorgeous work in that scene, but just like Sarah even more, just her performance was just heartbreakingly beautiful. So
I need a minute. I'm okay. All right.
Yeah, there was also a really quick moment between Harry and Mab that was sort of like that was actually the original sort of ending for the Battleground trailer, but that the moment that we currently have is the end, that sort of like call to action of like, can you fight, watch me. That was originally supposed to be sort of like the midpoint that sort of like kicks us into the energy of it, but Stephanie realized like, oh my God, like this is how we've got to end this. And so it just, yeah, your input on that was so completely spot on, brilliant.
Thanks.
Okay, so for Wade and Kris, a question from Maya Fox. How much context were you given about the as yet unpublished scenes that you were building, designing, dressing, lighting, and did you have much of an idea about what you were doing? And or were you only given like generic disaster scene, and what Easter eggs might we look forward to noticing if we were to watch again?
All right, there's a lot to unpack there, and I'm very happy to unpack all of it. Do we know what we're doing? Yes, always.
I think she meant in
I'm kidding. Yeah, I'm
context. I don't
kidding.
think
I'm
she
kidding.
meant, you know,
Yes,
why
I'm
don't you
making a
get
joke.
hired?
Yeah. We select members of the crew read the current drafts of both books first. So
It's
not
actually the
necessarily
pre-split version, I think, that you guys read. So
yeah, read the pre-split version of the second half for Battlegrounds and the post-split version for the first book, well, the 16th book. So we had quite a lot of context when designing things, and both Kris and I have read the entire series. I grew up with the series. My dad like handed me the first one in high school and said, I just read this. This is really good. You'll like it. So I've been reading it since then. So there's a lot of context that we had, both the sort of narrative historical context leading up to it and in what we were actually making. As far as Easter eggs, there's a lot of things. I do. So I'll start with that one. The cane, Ramirez's cane behind me, in Olmec runes along the cane actually says, it hurts to be this good. So the silver that we put onto the cane says it hurts to be this good. In we translated English letters to Olmec letters, not a full language translation, but an alphabet translation. For other things, another Easter egg behind me, Harry's carrying a dagger through a lot of it, which is also behind me. And we stuck just to have a parallelism. Marcone has a dagger in his, shoved into the back of his pants in that locker scene. And to draw a parallel between them, they both have this twine on them. So like they're both bound to their belts with the same cord just to make them together. We did a bunch of that kind of stuff, a bunch of character relationships in props, a lot of visual hints in sets. So since we're on that scene, the locker scene, one of the visual metaphors we had in the trailer was that Harry's always boxed in. That's throughout all of them. So in that scene in particular, we have the window frame on one side and Harry's staff on the other side, literally boxing him in, and Marcone is standing and is taller than him. So Marcone frees himself from the box. Yeah. Well, Harry's sitting down in the scene. So so Harry is literally boxed in and Marcone is free of the box because he is standing and taller. We hit a lot of details like that into how we placed our set dressing. There
was also some things that didn't make it.
There's a split car. There's a car that's cut in half in that big battle scene.
You see it for a moment.
It's there for so little. And a fun detail about that, the dead body on that car is actually Jim Butcher.
Yep.
I love that
surprise
solid
cameo.
blood puddle underneath. It was so fascinating.
There were also little things that didn't quite make it because of framing we had. We did a whole setup for Molly in the treehouse scene. And, you know, framing doesn't allow you to get down to it, but there's so much just little small detail that we put into it over the course of it that because of the way it's cut, because of the way it goes, you're not going to see it. But if you want to go through frame by frame, you'll find a ton of things in there that you're just like, oh, okay, that's where that came from. That's what that is. And that was the fun part about this, especially for like me and Wade. We've been reading it since day one. I picked up the series like the first 6 months it came out. I think, if I'm not mistaken, Priscilla might know, but Stormfront and Full Moon came out, I think, over the course of a 6-month period. And I read Stormfront. And then,
April and January, I want to say, of 2001, I believe.
Yep. And then Full Moon is what actually hooked me on the series because I came over from the Wheel of Time. And the level of detail that Jim put into everything and just the simple thoughts, like to me, one of the best parts for the trailer was the armory. And because there was so much Celtic mythology built into the backstory of these characters in this book and over the course of the series, for me as, you know, half an Irishman, that was wonderful to be able to start putting things like that and to see it actually come to the screen. and see it get a little more playtime, because it is a massive part for me of the series. So and then having Wade to work with is fantastic.
Thank you.
Because it's easy when you can talk with somebody that knows the material and when you've worked together with them before, and be able to bounce off of that and kind of know where somebody wants to go with it. So
yeah.
And one other Redditor question on the same subject for both of you is, what is, as series-long fans of the Dresden Files, what was your favorite set to build?
Oof.
That's tough. I think more than, I think more than sets as a fan. So like as a designer, that Battlefield set was so much fun. Both of them, both the one with the motorcycle and then the one where we actually laid down dirt in the warehouse and have the split car and all that. But as a fan, I think for me, Ramirez is my favorite character, so his props were a lot of fun. But doing Harry's, because we've spent so much time with them, and they have a sort of unique context in this trailer and the books, because Harry's life is so different than it was before. So Harry has, since Skin Game, like he recarved his staff on an island with a pocket knife. So we were able to take some of those things and represent his old life in rougher, handmade. So like his blasting rod is hand carved, and we actually, Suzanne, it was your husband carved them, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
and they were
but he used
you and your husband. Okay, sorry. Apologies, I misunderstood. You carved. Yeah. So we have this really nice that Harry's carved by hand, and that pairs so nicely with like Tonya's work on Harry's suit as a representative of the Winter Court. So Harry's new life, the role he's been put in, is represented by the fancy, finer made for him things, and the things that are him and he's carried with him are either things that he has handmade, or they are things that are older, like his necklace. And that dichotomy was really fun to play with, and it was really fun to bring a new relationship to the props that he's had the whole book. As a fan, that was really nice.
For me, on that same thing, I'd have to say my two favorites were for completely opposite reasons. One was the Last Supper tableau in the castle. It was extremely simple for us to set up, and while that in and of itself might not seem to answer the question, for me it was always that this is the first time we see Harry as a grown-up sitting down at the table with these characters, like not as a servant, not as a, he's actually there for a seat at the table, and he has a say in what's happening. And to see all of these major players with Harry in this setting, like that to me was amazing to get to play with. But the one that I actually had the most fun with is the one we actually see the least of, and that's the treehouse. Those walls weighed about 500 pounds.
Yeah.
They were about 500 pounds, and there's two separate 6x8 sections of just these massive walls that we built.
And there's a summoning circle on the ground too.
A summoning circle on the
Which
ground.
was fun. Yeah.
You have the plex there as the barrier for her to touch on her circle. But building those walls was actually the most time-consuming part of the entire building process for me, because each piece had to be cut, recut, stained, painted, restained. And it just happened to be the same week that it decided to rain in Southern California for 6 days straight.
Oh my gosh.
So
snowy, if you guys remember.
Yeah, it did snow that one day. Like you couldn't even, the stain wouldn't take. So it was like, I'm out there with this weird mixture of tar and paint and water trying to get this stuff to stain in the rain. And it came out fine. But like that to me was the most fun to build, because the relationship between Harry and Molly has always been something that to me was extremely special. And then to see where it's come in the last couple of books, and especially the short stories, that to me was my most fun part, to see that relationship actually take another step forward. That's my
what
favorite.
The treehouse represents and the shape that it's in was just
Yeah, I mean, it's just yet another aspect of Harry's life that is broken, shattered, and on the ground, and yet somehow this guy's still walking through it. Like, you can't.
Sometimes you have to.
That's always spoken to me about Harry as a character and as a person, and that's, I think, what I love the most about it, is getting to illustrate that visually for a time.
Wade and Kris, I loved your guys' gymnasium. When I went in there, I was like, oh, this is
Oh yeah, that's another thing that is when they're making out in the gymnasium, another one of those things that is stuff fades into shadow in the back, which makes for a wonderful framing of the scene. But there's an entire like Viking weapon rack in the back. There's so many things that were so fun to build just on a like, hey, we get to do this.
Is somebody gonna catch this?
Yeah, I've been doing so much of my career being like, when do I get to do swords? I want to do swords. I want to do castles because I grew up on it. Like swords and lasers are wonderful things for me as a designer, and I got to do so many swords. The rocket launcher was fun just to have one on set. A lot of the big moments were a ton of fun.
That AT4 was hard to find,
Yes.
and holiday season in Los Angeles, nobody had one. And then to be able to work with somebody that just embodied Murph and be able to just watch that happen. Like it's those little moments that you hope you get to do over the course of a career. It's those little things that you love so much and you want to be able to do it. And then to actually be able to see it come to life and just have a pinky involved in it is the fun part. And thanks to Priscilla for putting out the
Yes.
web-wide casting call. It's like I check the website every day, like, when is the next book coming out? And then it's like, hey, do you live in LA? Do you want to work on it? Do you have experience?
Perfect.
It's like, absolutely. Here you go. So thank you, Priscilla, for giving us the chance to be a part of it.
Thank you.
Yes, very glad to have been a part of it.
Because I mean, like the passion that you brought to the project and just the depth of knowledge and like the attention to detail, like the McAnally's like the labels that Rachel
I actually
designed.
have some of those. Yeah, our graphic artist Rachel. I actually have. We had two of them. This is Max Dark. Jim signed this one, and little details in that. So
stars.
it's got the Max Brown has 13 stars and Max Dark has 13 stripes on the label. Just as every pattern is in 13s for all the stuff on the labels and in the bar. All the little details were so much fun.
Awesome. Yeah, just like bouncing ideas off of you guys. You guys just brought so much knowledge and passion and experience to the table. Like there were some things that like I didn't realize were even going to be possible. Like when we were talking about how we were going to do the sort of upside down suspended Spider-Man scene.
Oh yeah.
And I was do this without having any stunts in the production. And
so
Kris was like, I think I've done something similar, and he like.
Yeah, so we built that one on it's an angle, so Jason didn't have to actually be hanging. It was just built just enough of an angle so that his gravity would pull things up a little, and so that he'd be entirely safe and could lay there with his knees just hooked over the top. It looks so big on camera, and it's so small and it's so small in reality. It was one of those great movie tricks.
I was the test dummy for the initial one, and we cut what, like 2 feet off of the base of that to bring it down some.
Yeah, about 18 inches, 2 feet, something like that.
Yeah, and the first one was painful. But seeing how that turned out on film, especially with the way it all came together, and then Jason just figuring out how to make his shoulder stretch just enough to make it look cramped, like that was the fun part, like actually seeing it go together. It was amazing.
Jeremy and Priscilla, was there a particular scene in the trailer that was difficult to shoot? And conversely, which one was the most fun to shoot, or if it's the same one?
Well, I think probably the most difficult scene to shoot, just from a technical perspective, was the scene in the mansion where all the lights go out.
Yeah.
Just because it literally required us figuring out where all the light switches in this incredible mansion are, some of which are hidden under cabinets and stuff, and then figuring out what order we want to turn off these light switches, and then rolling for, I don't know, maybe 5 minutes, and going through the house one room at a time, flipping off switches, hoping you got the right one in the right order, and then hoping you didn't forget something. I think that was probably the most exercise I've ever got during one take of anything.
That's so hilarious because it was so difficult for you, and basically I was just relaxing that whole time. Like that was me like focusing on what was going to be happening in the next scene. Like, okay, Jeremy's got it. Like, okay, I have a few minutes to breathe. I think a lot of the challenges of like our last day of filming, which was like a lot of the material from Battleground, and it was great that we were able to have like everything in one big like warehouse location, ZH Productions where I used to work, but like sort of figuring out like unique enough environments that it didn't look like they were all just filmed at the same place. Like the place where like Thomas's cell was also the place where Harry and Marcone were changing, which was also like all of these like apocalyptic types of settings, and what looks like an exterior where Harry is rallying these crowds, and that's like a testament to Jeremy's skill as well in just like using lighting to totally transform these areas. But and also like the gym where Harry and Lara are making out, like there were a lot of places all shot here, but I think that the battlefield shot where we have like the pile of corpses and sort of Ethnu triumphant and Harry and Marcone like in this sort of like defeated place, and like the set that had to be constructed, which like incredibly epic and optimistic is not the word I'm looking for, but yeah, like epic in scope, but like it was still like difficult to sort of figure out where you needed to like where we could put the camera, and we had that challenge as well in that sort of like balcony shot with all of the wardens facing off, because like the places where you could put the camera was very limited based on just like the geography of the place. So like kind of knowing when you had to sort of throw away when to throw away the storyboards and just go with like kind of improvising with what you had in the place at the time. That was probably the biggest challenge, like sort of making sure that I was still getting all the coverage that I needed, that all the shots would still kind of flow together the way that they needed. That was probably my biggest challenge, like being forced to improvise like that.
A question from James Cagney on Reddit. Did the rewriting of Battleground affect how some of your scenes were shot?
Yeah. Was it the Battleground rewrite that made it happen, or was it shots in Peace Talks? I forget.
It was the Battleground rewrite.
Yeah. I kept changing things around.
When folks are able to read the sample chapters, they will find that Jim completely destroyed the tux in like the second chapter of Battleground. So like,
that's right. It got shredded by
And he literally like sent the betas the chapter the day before we started filming, and like Jim's like, oh, new chapters, and I was so just completely swamped in pre-production that I was like, okay, like I'll read them after the fact, and he didn't bring to my attention that he destroyed the tux.
Yeah, I didn't think about that.
Tuxes. We could have shredded one, but it happens. I mean, like when I think about like all of the like Marvel trailers and whatnot, and hello Fenris, and we know who the real star of this interview is.
Oh yeah.
Like all of these trailers for popular movies that have come out that have had scenes that weren't actually in the film, or used takes that weren't in the film, or again like Rogue One that that had that trailer that only one shot from the entire trailer actually made it into the movie.
Right? Yeah, the whole thing. Oh my god.
So yes, that tux is my Rogue One moment.
Right.
Casting, it leads into two questions that two people have for you. The first one, which is short, is from Xander Quinton Kelly. It says, did you float the idea of including Freitas in the trailer? And if so, who was your cast?
It was going to be you.
Yes, I know. I got cut.
Yeah, originally we were wanting to have a much more sort of true to book version of the Peace Summit. Like the version that we ended up doing was sort of much more sort of evocative, like artistic license sort of thing. But like we were gonna have like Lara's throne and like people like draped around her, and Freitas was gonna be like at Lara's feet.
I was gonna be draped on Birgit, and they cut me. I was gonna be draped on Birgit, and you cut me.
Sorry about that. Just, creative.
Steven, was that your fault?
It's the
We have to
producer.
talk.
It's the producer.
Okay,
Remember,
all right.
if it's not good, it's the producer who did that.
Okay. The other question is from Drew Ames, and it says, what was the casting process like? For instance, how much information did the actors have about the character? We went through that part already, but what was the casting process like for you?
It was incredibly intense. I mean, first there was just a big question of whether or not what the general scope of the project would be, like whether we could draw from SAG talent or whether everyone needed to be non-union. And so like that was a whole like several different layers of auditions for the various different sort of scope levels. Then a lot of it was just a matter of like which actors looked right together, like which had the right vibe, because I knew that like not only would I have to find actors that like perfectly exemplified like Harry and Lara and Thomas, but I also had to find actors that looked like they could potentially be related to each other, and like fabulous actors to play Harry and Murphy, but then also that had the height difference and just sort of like the difference in physicality. And so like sort of putting together all of those jigsaw pieces was incredibly challenging. And but I'm so pleased with just like the chemistry of everyone when they came together. It was just so fabulous to see. Yeah.
I remember the struggle that you had casting Harry and Thomas.
Yes.
Like that brother mix.
Mm-hmm. Well, also just like I think that casting Thomas was probably the hardest person that I ended up having to find, because it was really hard to like find good audition material for Thomas, strangely enough. And like also I was casting so early in the process that I didn't have a really firm idea of like what we were going to need from everyone, like in terms of like emotional range. And so I wanted to find people that like anything that I could throw at them, they would have that in their instrument, in their resourcefulness to be able to bring that to the table. And I feel so terrible for how little Catalina, who plays Molly, was used, because oh my gosh, her audition broke my heart. We used this confrontation scene from Cold Days, I guess, and she just like brought so much just depth of emotion, and like you had the sense that like, even though she hadn't read any of the books, like she felt like she had the depth of history that Harry and Molly's relationship would have. And so I was like, as I was also looking for places to put Marco, and I was also looking for things to use for Molly, because also I'm not secretive at all about the fact that Molly is my favorite character. And so unfortunately, there's just like not a lot of her in the book that I could latch onto. But yeah, so that was one situation where like I wish that I could have included more of that incredible range of talent for Catalina. And I completely lost my train of thought. Oh yes. So auditioning, I was using material from previously published books, except of course with Ethnew, where like she was the one person that got to have a little bit of a sense of what was going to be happening in the actual unpublished work. Because I knew that I couldn't be too careful. I knew that like there were big fans out there of the series in the world, and like anyone could submit to these casting notices. And if I had unpublished material out there, then there was every chance that it could be more widely distributed, and that I wouldn't really have any control over that. So I knew that I had to use like already published material that really sort of showed representation of what that character was like. And with Thomas, because I wanted to be able to show like the devil may care side, but then also like the really intense side. And so like when I gave the actors like these two polar opposite scenes, one like Harry and Thomas's like meeting in grave peril, and then the first scene when Harry and Thomas are confronting each other like after Harry's come back to life, like in the water beetle. And so like these poor actors had no idea like is this even the same guy? So yeah, like I probably could have tailored that a little bit more to have mercy on these poor actors that were trying to make sense of who this character was and what I wanted from them in their audition. But Cami just absolutely rocked both scenes. And I was so lucky that the guy that was just like the perfect Thomas, like also like looked enough like Jason and looked enough like Birgit that they sort of had that familial resemblance. And that was another situation where like we wanted to have like more physicality from him, like part of the fight with Etri and Austri, and he's actually like this accomplished stuntman as well. And I felt so awful that like, okay, like you're just gonna kneel next to a chair and then you're just gonna be like broken, like laying down on the floor. Amazing stuntman, go. So it was really tough to be creating this trailer and knowing that the actors have just so much more to give and beautifully represent like the entire totality of the complexity of these characters, and that I could only include just the tiniest little fraction of that incredible talent.
And I have a question for three of those incredible talents. For June, Liz, and Kris. The three of you are such delightful, lovely humans who light up a room with joy and rainbows and sometimes literally puppies. How did you manage to pull off playing such despicable monsters on such short notice? Is there like an evil switch or a keyboard shortcut? Like, how do you do that?
Oh, that's hilarious.
That's a funny question.
Like all three of you, the first time you walked into the room with, I hadn't met you until I came to LA. So that like, the first time I met you, I was like, which, like, is this Molly? And she's like, no. And I'm like, is this Molly? I'm like, no. And then Kris walks in wearing a long duster, and I'm like, Harry? And she's like, no. I'm like, what? She's like, these are the villains. I'm like,
I have to interject really quickly.
You cast this.
I have to interject really quickly because like June actually like auditioned in character because she just has the most like bubbly, vivacious, beautiful personality, and so she knew that like if she like wasn't like if she appeared as herself, that's all that I would see, that I wouldn't see like the depth of her talent. And
be careful
so actually like when I called her up to tell her that she'd gotten the role, like suddenly there was this just like adorable bubbly voice on the other end of like, oh, I'm out walking my neighbor's golden retriever. Like, wait, what? This is our Titan?
Literally
but you just
puppies.
like so nailed. Yes.
Yeah, literal Lando. I was walking Lando. He's what you think of when you think of rainbows and puppies.
So like the three of you have very little time and very little context to do things like scream and destroy a city, or to like grab Harry by the shirt and shake him like that, or to like to be like, I'm sorry that you're broken, but get up and fight. So how do you do that and be such delights?
I think, just speaking for myself, whenever I approach a character, I never look at it as if it's a good guy or a bad guy. It's me in a situation that I desperately need to solve, and then you sort of access that true part of yourself. So you're not forcing, oh, now I've got to be a bad guy. But you're forcing this, you're accessing this desperation that Marcone would be feeling, where he's like, well, whatever it takes, I'm going to win no matter what. And that comes across to viewers as, oh, he's the bad guy because he'll do anything to win. But as an actor, I can't play bad guy. I can only play, I need to achieve this objective no matter what.
Yeah, here to that. And it's also the fun part, is making that history for your character and why they would, I mean, for the actor, we're turning on a switch, but for that character, you know, you've been stewing in the ocean for thousands and thousands of years. And so like you have that juicy story underneath it you've got, you know, you've been able to create, and then it's exactly going after that objective, and that's the fun part. And it's not so much turning on a switch as it is, you know, playing in that world of justified anger, because everyone has that.
I mean, what?
I mean, huh? So yeah, Kris is, I mean, that's my process too, is I'm not playing angry. I have an objective to go after, and I've been thinking about this for thousands of years. But that's the fun of it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I love you guys. I love that. Of course, that's a question you guys would ask. Wow. It's interesting. Yeah, because I snort when I laugh, and then to play like one of the most like icy. I don't even have words for Mab. I think for me with her especially, I mean, obviously echoing what Kris and June said, but also just the cost of her power. You know, like she has paid and paid and paid through various books and stuff that's only alluded to, that you're like, did she really do that? So, you know, and the weight of that, because I think, you know, she's evil, but she's an emissary of good in so many ways, right? Like, so there's, you know, it's almost like she's mothering this world in a way that she couldn't do for the people that were related to her, right? Like this is, so yeah, I of course, like every actor that, you know, because you, Suze, and you, Priscilla, had to deal with the whole picture, we just get to kind of get microscopic on what our journey is. And for me, she's this terribly tragic figure, you know, and like, and has real love for people that she also seeks to destroy, you know, like that, the difference between love isn't hate, it's indifference, right?
Yep.
And so I think love and hate are, and the destructive force, you know, like the story of the Phoenix is that it lights itself on fire so it can be reborn. And I think, yeah, I mean, she's the most exciting character to play ever. So it wasn't a switch so much as like, oh God, like just lighting a rocket and hoping that you explode.
And on that same note, a Redditor would like to know who, and I have predictions now, who everyone's favorite character in the series is.
Murph. Period. Murph. There's no question for me.
I saw the rocket launching, I think.
That's a part of it.
Murphy.
No, it's hard to take somebody that pure and keep dumping mud and blood on them and keep them that pure the whole time. So,
for the heroes, I've already mentioned mine. I like Ramirez. For bad guys, I like Nicodemus.
Yes.
Yep.
Ooh, that's smart to divide everybody like that. Yeah, I good guys. I can't get enough of Ebenezer and our actor that played Ebenezer. Is like,
Oh my Adam.
He is Ebenezer.
Yes,
and then villains. I'm kind of personal, Mab. No big deal. And all dragons. I love all dragons.
Mm-hmm.
Kitty?
I don't know. Rudolph's a pretty horrible bad guy.
So clerical.
I'm biased. Lenanchi for me.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, she's, yeah.
Oh, sorry.
I'm trying to think of like, after reviewing everything, like who I wanted to like hear, like see more, or hear, read or hear or see more of. And I really wanted, and I'm totally forgetting his name, but I want to know more about the barkeep.
Mac. Yes.
Mac.
That
What
is the mystery that'll never be solved.
with Mac?
Oh, I know, and I can't tell anyone.
Because that guy just know everything. Like he's just so chill, and he's like, here's your shit. If you want to pay, you can. You know, but like I'm creating this world. This is like Switzerland. You can't fight here, but I'm allowing it to happen because it needs to be. Like Mac is just badass, and he doesn't even have to talk about it.
I will say, without giving any spoilers, my fan theory for Mac was disproven. So I am right with you. Where I thought he was going is definitively not it as of the new book. So I am right with you, and
I remember when we found that out.
And you know, I will say, like, thank you for bringing up Nicodemus, because and kind of going back to what Kris was saying about Marcone, is that, like, I desperately feel like these guys can turn good. Like, I want, like, you know, because like Nicodemus, I feel like he's like, I feel like he can be good, like, and I want him to be good, and it's like I want everybody to like have a chance to just like switch, you know, but there's only so many times you can give someone a chance to be good and they keep being bad. So I think Nicodemus, for me, you just like, you see like his logic, and you see that he actually thinks he is good, you know, because he feels like he's doing something for his specific purpose. And I just, every time he's introduced, I'm like, I want Harry to just like, get rid of him, Harry. But then I'm also kind of like, this man, like, maybe he can be good. Like, so I actually, like, between Mac and Nicodemus, I just, every time I come up against them or like come to them in the books, I'm always just kind of like, I need to know more about these people.
I kind of like Molly Carpenter a little. Some people might know that about me. Stephanie?
I mean, I love Harry. He's the best. I just love that he's always like laughing at people who are way bigger and stronger than him at all times. And it's like super relatable in that way. I just like, yeah, it's awesome.
Jim, do you have a favorite character?
What? Oh, no. No, I don't like any of those people. I work with them.
Jeremy, in just like the brief time that you've had with these characters, like did you have a favorite like that emerged as you were filming them?
I mean, probably I was influenced by you because we spent so much time talking about it that I kind of developed an attachment toward Molly as a character, just partially because I'm like, I know she's your favorite character, so we really have to do her service. So yeah.
And the rig that you created for that that effect of the fairies flying around Molly was inspired. That was so cool to see you construct that thing.
Oh yeah, and shout out to the grip department for pulling it off. The random C-stands coming out with China balls, and yeah, it was really fun.
One of my favorite characters, because she's so tragic, was Ivy. I don't know why she breaks. I mean, and the love that Harry had for her, like he just, like you almost feel like she's a messiah character because was born for this purpose, and though she never really had a choice in it. And, you know, she does it, but she's still a child. And now growing up and not feeling any human connection, being a mom and just feeling, you know, that tragicness of wanting to, you know, protect her and make her, you know, as innocent as possible, but she can't be.
And one last question for everyone. The question is, what was it like to work with such a detail-oriented director? And I had never seen Priscilla direct before. And in this being, I believe, your first directing project.
Outside of film school, yeah.
Oh, okay. To watch you bloom into something that is clearly your calling was like watching someone go kaiju in person. And it was spectacular and awing and amazing, and I am glad I was there in person to witness it, and it was inspiring, and I want to do more work with you now.
For me, I mean, I just saw it as an incredible. So normally when you work with directors, often they have strong opinions about certain things, and some other things are just like, do it however you think is best. But very seldom do you work with a director who literally has a pinpoint understanding of where everything needs to be and how everyone needs to be relating. And for me, it made my job so much easier because there's so much less guesswork. When you know what you have to film and why things are being done, it makes it really simple. So I think in pre-production, when we're coming up with reference images, we must have spent 6 different meetings talking about one shot with FNU, where like the images I was finding to represent this moment, just none of them were right. And I just, every time we'd meet, I'd come up with a new image or 3 or 4 images, and we could never find the right image. So that was probably the one moment where Priscilla's specificity was the most apparent. But I think
That is so beautifully diplomatic. I love that.
I would say for me, so I've been reading these books since 7th grade, so I was like, I know these characters. I know exactly what to do, like how to do this. But there was this one moment when Laura's like kind of like coming in peace talks, and she's like looking like super like, you know, sultry. And I was like, oh, I'll just put this like little like giggle under in the sound, and we're playing it down. And Priscilla goes, she wouldn't do that. So we both had a laugh at that, because I was like, you're right, she wouldn't do that. So it was super like great to have you there with me, because there would be moments where I would feel sure about something, but you would say, you know, this is like the real representation of this character. And I was like, you're absolutely right about that. So I really liked having your input in the like choosing which take made sense for Marcone, you know, Murph, all that stuff. So it was super great.
But also like you being a fan was so incredibly invaluable, because like the Easter eggs and stuff that you were able to put in were absolutely wild. And also like you knew what the fans wanted to see with the characters, and then so you're able to sort of help sculpt things that way. But also like in the moment where like the sort of like transition between like Murphy talking about Marcone and Marcone's first appearance, there's this like barely audible like tiger growl in the sound design, and and I didn't even hear it until a fan pointed it out to me. But like that is so completely perfect, because it's not subtextual, like
subliminal.
Subconscious. Yeah, subliminal, subconscious. But it just like puts you exactly in the right frame of mind to introduce that character, and that was just so brilliant.
Yeah, how it was working with the archive. Yeah. No, it was, but it was fun. It was fun seeing Priscilla sally forth to become a field general there. That was impressive. You know, all those people, and she was running the show. I was impressed with that. Things got carried out. Things got done. So a good product got made with effort that got put in. The kind of effort you only get from people who love what they're doing. You know, and Priscilla led by example on that score.
You know, I think I'll speak for myself, but I think I'm also speaking for a lot of people, because these characters were so well defined. It was, you know, intimidating coming into this project, feeling like, am I enough? Do I physically look like this person? I don't physically quite look like this person. Am I this person? And knowing, you just know Priscilla knows everything about this whole world and all of these people. And yet, kind of how she created this whole entire environment and working on set, where she trusted us, she trusted her choice and who she casted, and then she allowed us to be who we are in the circumstances of the characters we were casting. And she didn't nitpick us and make us feel like we weren't enough. She really just trusted us and allowed us to kind of just be who we are in those circumstances, and just trust the casting process and what she knew of the characters. And Priscilla, really, really appreciated that, because it allowed me to just be relaxed and allow myself to really be in the world that has been created by Jim, and that you have had this vision to carry out visually for him and all of these other people that have like these really specific images. And I just really appreciated just you being who you are and allowing me and all of us to just be specific and still be ourselves was like a really amazing thing to be a part of, and a blessing. So I would love to work with you in the future, and you're just such a delight and just kind person all the time. So thank you for allowing me.
Here.
Yeah.
I second that. It's always hard when you're bringing these specific moments, but you're not filming the in-between moments. So, you know, you don't have the luxury of you know, if you're doing a full feature film where you're actually getting to experience and rehearse the things that are happening right before and right after. But the shorthand that we all got with Priscilla really quickly was just so, it brought so much sort of security or confidence or whatever we needed to be able to go there. I knew I could just look at Priscilla at any time and be like, okay, where are we? What's going on? And she has she would like, the eyes would gloss over and she would go into this mode where she was really expressive to let us know what it was that she wanted from us. And I was like, okay. And then as time went on, it went the other way too, which was like, okay, for me to get that, this is what I need, and that was where some of so it was awesome. It was so much fun. I mean, even we were doing ADR a couple of days ago, and I was in the booth and I couldn't see Priscilla, and she was kind of explaining to me something. And I was like, just say it how you want to hear it. And she said it, and I was like, okay, I got it. And it was like, took us right back to doing that on set. So it was such a pleasure to work with you, and something that was, I mean, I remember one of the first day we got on set, it hit me, and it was like overwhelming a second because there were a lot of fans that were like extras and stuff, and I came walking through in my Harry outfit, and everyone's like, and I just saw like all these people go like, it's Harry, and I was like, oh man, this is for real. Like I gotta pull this off. I gotta deliver the goods. So thank you so much for creating an environment in which it felt comfortable to do that as best it could.
Yeah, no pressure on that very first thing that we were filming. The first thing that we shot was the McAnally scene, and so like massive crowd of extras. Actually, Evan, our assistant producer, played Billy, and I was Georgia next to him. So like I couldn't even, I had to be like in with all the rest of the actors, and like couldn't even be watching the monitor. So like difficulty level maximum for just to sort of go feet first into that situation. So yeah, like I'm so glad that I had just that incredibly professional team, just to really make that.
Oh, and Jason, by the way, anecdote for like when I brought the duster back to my husband, he like put his hands in the pocket and he's like, why is there all this sand in the pocket? So that's you and Kris. I'm like, funny story.
Well, that was, for me, that was one of the best parts of doing this whole project. Like as a fan, you bring your preconceived thoughts into a world that's already there. Like you see it a certain way.
Yeah.
But then every single other person involved in this project, from Priscilla to the actors to the production team, on down to the PAs even, like everybody brought their own little vision for what was happening and what was going on. And that's what takes it from being a 2D story into a 3D world. And let's be real, going from the last 3D representation of Harry we had to the current 3D representation of Harry we have, it's such a night and day difference. And it was so wonderful to actually see everybody with the passion, like just put a little bit of themselves into this project and make it breathe. And there are too many funny stories to share. But I think for me, the standout moment is when Jason and Sarah are sitting on the couch in ostensibly Murph's house. And we're on take 12, 13 of whatever scene that was. And the cars and the overhead noise just would not stop. And we absolutely nailed that take. And then in the last second and a half, you had that car come by, and Sarah's just like completely Murphed out, just like, damn it. And it was just that moment of like everything solidified and came together for that shot. And then just like Murph, just like shit. It was great.
It was this very Shakespearean thing. It was so hilarious.
That was probably the funniest moment for me.
Like you were just spot on it. Every time I had a question, you were like there, and I was like, yeah, this is legit. I was like, I need you. Make sure.
Well, I was happy to help. I was just, the fact that you took to it the way you did, that was the best part for me. I was like, okay, she's got it, like no big deal. And you scare me, by the way. You put that face on, you point that rocket launcher at the camera, or even just the way you handled, your P90 or anything like that. That's a little scary.
I have an intense face, I do.
I don't.
He puts on the boots.
Yeah.
Right? Just puts on the boots. Stompy little squishy boots. Like it works perfectly.
I would also like to thank Priscilla for being working with me, because coming into it, I was like super overwhelmed. She like sent me the character reference. We had a FaceTime call, and it was like she wanted so many details for each character, and I like felt so bad because I like genuinely didn't want to disappoint her, but I like didn't have enough money to do it for her, and I was like, oh my God, I don't want her to think I'm being difficult. But I like am very thankful for you to giving me like pure creative freedom within the character looks. Like I appreciate that because you don't get creative freedom quite often being a makeup artist. So I appreciate that. And then I appreciate you just being easy to work with. Like for me being by myself doing all these looks, like it was very intimidating the first day. I even came in the first day. I didn't go to sleep beforehand because I had food poisoning. I was like vomiting till 6 a.m. And then I came and I was like, oh my God, I hope I don't throw up. If like when I meet her, like that was like, and you were like so nice. You were like super calm. You like would get excited about the look and it made me feel like better. But I would say like a funny kind of anecdote was June, when she was getting airbrushed and painted in bronze, was so persistent that she wanted photos of like her feet getting painted bronze. And it was just like the funniest thing to me because she's like dressed in like this like intimidating attire. She's like, can you get a picture of my foot being bronze? And it was just like so funny.
It was the most fun I've ever had on a set. And someone said, you sure you don't mind this? I was like, there's people that mind this? This is a blast. Take a photo. And Shelby, like you guys, your team, you made me so comfortable. I was, there wasn't a moment where I was like, yeah, they know what they're doing. Like I was the full confidence the whole time. And you made it so much fun. Like the process was, it took so long and it was fun the entire time. So
yeah,
I wanted a photo of my feet. Yes.
That was probably one of my moments that involved June, actually, where I had to run in to see Shelby for her last looks before a scene. And I hadn't met June yet, and here was this beautiful woman that apparently she looked to me when at first glance completely naked with bronze all over her body. I was like, "Oh God, I'm sorry. I thought they called me in here," and she's so cool and relaxed. No, come on in, it's fine. And I would say that about the whole team, actors and crew. Everybody was just so welcoming and so. And it's been said 1,000 times in many different ways, but so on board to tell the same story and so eager to make Priscilla's vision and ultimately Jim's vision, but Priscilla's vision come to life. And Priscilla walks this tightrope where she does know every single detail about the story. She has an encyclopedic knowledge of the story she wants to tell, yet she has the courage to trust the team around her, both in front of the camera and behind the camera, to go, okay, I've communicated what I want pristinely. Now I'm going to trust you to bring it to me. So she doesn't micromanage from that point on. And that's very, very hard to do, to play both of those notes at the same time. And so that made it a delight to work on set.
As an artisan, Priscilla has a very clear vision. And sometimes, it was trying to get our vision to connect, but one of the things I love about you is that you're so gracious. I mean, it's like, I'm the one trying to read your mind and you're like, I'm so sorry you can't read my mind. And I'm like, oh no, help me. And you're so sweet about every aspect of it. And I mean, girlfriend, I would work for you in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
And then for Liz, I swear to God, I owe her a drink because I've her in so many ways, and probably Kitty can agree that we've gotten very personal with each other.
I was like, is anyone going to say this story? Because I'm freaking not.
Yeah, with all that double-sided tape, it was hysterical. I'm like, she's living in lace and tape. That's it.
Yeah.
Kitty's dress is immaculate. So to give context, Ms. Tonya, Priscilla, and I were on a FaceTime with Kitty as she tried to navigate, because the dress is so couture, like it's so well made and fitted, that myself being from Idaho, like I was like, there's no way for me to get in this. And so Tonya and Priscilla got up close and personal, and we figured it out. And the day that Kitty was on set with us, we were like, oh, thank God. And she was just like, oh, here. Yeah. And until then, with dental floss, tape, and a smile, we yeah.
Nice.
We navigated, yeah. So.
Bridget too. Bridget had a few of those moments.
Oh, yeah.
You guys a stiff drink.
Oh no. I remember, Priscilla, I'm sorry. I remember you just handing me a dress, and then you had to go get stark naked right in front of you in the bathroom. And it would be, I mean, Priscilla's the only person that I would feel comfortable doing that on. So thank you for having that trust there.
It really did feel kind of like a giant, massive LARP, because everybody was okay, this is a job, but we're also having so much fun, and let's also just play.
Well, that actually reminds me of, so in the big tableau scene, so you're talking about it being a giant LARP. A lot of the background were there because they were fans, right? Yeah. So when they are going to Tonya for costumes or going to us for like their props, like someone gets a golden cigarette holder and goes, oh my God, am I Faravax? Am I really? And that happened with every single dignitary down the whole line, even people who, like people who were specifically cast and knew their character, and then there were people who were cast sort of in the moment of you get to be this person and you get to be that person, came back because they were all fans and because there's such a depth of lore and narrative that exists. People got to see, hey, here's a detail that we put into your prop or your costume or whatever, that suddenly they're like, oh, I know who I am. And the joy in people's faces when they got to do that was great. Like we have, I don't even know if you can see him in the trailer. There's a Wild Bill in the background, in like the window of one shot. Like there's, you know, like people are just like, wait, I get a warden cloak and a cowboy hat and a rifle. I'm Bill. That's awesome. Like that kind of joy is. Yes, I was recruited to be Chandler. That was also a lot of fun. So seeing the joy in everyone's face and then being part of it. So like I'm behind the camera. My whole career is not in front of the camera. It was fun to be there and to see how everyone lit up. Being able to join in making something that they loved. It was a lot of fun.
When we were filming the ethnu scenes, and like everything looks so good with the lighting and the set dressing, and it like the framing on the camera was so beautiful, and she was terrifying. June was terrifying, and then we'd hit cut and she'd be like, how was it?
Right.
You're the most precious ever.
That was good. Well, I think that's all the time we have. Thank you guys so much. It was so wonderful to see your beautiful faces again. And I'm just so, like, I thank my lucky stars every day that I had the privilege of working with you guys. And, like, as I've been working on, like, the VFX stuff and everything, just just lingering on all of your beautiful faces. And, yeah, it has just been such a privilege. And you guys became these characters that have been living in my head and my heart for like 15 years at this point. And I'm so grateful for all of your time and your talent and your dedication. And I hope we get to do this thing again for the next book.
Amen.
Same. You guys got time to do another one right now?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, let's go. All right. Thank you so much, Priscilla.
Glad to be here.
Thank you.
Cheers.